Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping straight into ethical hacking, specifically the CEH v13 certification.
Right.
This is really for anyone curious about cybersecurity, maybe thinking of switching careers or, students trying to map things out.
Exactly. And ethical hacking, I mean, at its core, it's about strengthening defenses proactively.
So, companies hire people to hack them legally.
Pretty much, yeah. To find the weak spots before the actual malicious attackers do. It sounds a bit counterintuitive maybe, but it's absolutely vital today for protecting digital stuff.
Okay, so CEH, Certified Ethical Hacker, that's the EC Council's thing, and V13, that's the latest version.
That's the one. And it's important because it covers the current threats, things like cloud security, IoT devices, which are everywhere, and understanding different types of malware.
So getting this certification, it's a solid way to show you've got the foundational skills if you want a career in cybersecurity.
Definitely. It validates that knowledge.
Who should be looking at this then? Beginners who are just interested.
Yeah, if you're fascinated by how systems work, how they can be broken into, it's a great starting point. Also good if you've got some IT background already.
Like networking or sysadmin stuff.
Exactly. Networking, operating systems, and honestly, just anyone who's really into the tools and techniques, both attacking and defending.
Do you need to be like a super coder?
Not right off the bat, no. A basic grasp of networking, OS fundamentals, maybe a little scripting, that'll help for sure as you get deeper into it, but it's not a day one blocker.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening and they're intrigued. What about the actual exam, the CEH v13 exam? What's that like?
Right, the exam, it's multiple choice, 125 questions, and you get 4 hours.
4 hours. Okay, what kind of topics?
It's pretty broad, actually. Starts with reconnaissance, just gathering info, then scanning networks to see what's live, what services are running.
Okay.
Then you get into enumeration, digging deeper into those services, and then, well, system hacking itself. Plus malware, web app security, which is huge, wireless, IoT, cloud security. Covers a lot of ground.
And it's not just theory, right? I heard it involves practical scenarios.
Yeah, that's a key part of V13. They include real-world type scenarios to test hands-on skills. And for people who really want to prove their practical chops, there's an optional lab exam, too.
Oh, yeah.
Called CEH Practical. It's 6 hours, purely labs.
Wow, okay, 6 hours is serious.
It is, but the core knowledge really comes from those main learning areas in the standard CEH, like information gathering, footprinting, and recon, they call it.
Right, the spy stuff at the beginning.
Sort of. It's the attacker's research phase, learning how to collect publicly available data about a target.
Using tools like Maltego and Google Dorking. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, Maltego's great for visualizing data connections. And Google Dorking is just clever searching to find stuff that shouldn't really be public, like maybe finding a document that reveals a server version.
And WHOAS, too, finding domain owners.
Exactly. WHOAS, DNS lookups. It's all about building that intel picture before you actively start poking around.
Okay, so you've done your homework. Then comes scanning networks. Actively looking now.
Precisely. You move from passive recon to active probing, trying to find live hosts, open ports, what services are running on those ports, maybe even spot some initial vulnerabilities.
And tools like Nmap are key here.
Oh, indispensable. Nmap for port scanning, service identification. There are different scan types like SYN scans, which are pretty common.
Right.
And Wireshark is another big one for actually capturing and looking at the network traffic itself, understanding what's being communicated.
Got it. So info gathered, network scanned, then the getting in a part, gaining access.
That's the next stage, yeah. This is where you learn the techniques attackers use to actually breach a system.
Like cracking passwords or using software bugs.
Exactly. Password cracking methods, brute force, dictionary attacks, or finding and exploiting known software vulnerabilities that haven't been patched. Trying to get that initial foothold inside.
But getting in isn't the end game, is it? I imagine they want to stick around and not get caught.
Absolutely. Maintaining access and covering tracks is critical for many attackers. They want persistence.
Persistence.
Yeah.
So they can come back later.
Right. Or gather more info over time, or use that machine to attack other systems. So this part covers how they do that, installing backdoors, messing with logs to hide what they did.
Like creating hidden accounts or something?
Yeah, or scheduling malicious scripts, things like that. And understanding this is obviously crucial for defenders trying to spot these activities.
And you mentioned earlier CEH v13 really focuses on web, cloud, wireless, IoT. These feel like the modern hotspots.
They really are. These are major attack vectors now. Web app vulnerabilities like, say, SQL injection are incredibly common. Cloud misconfigurations happen all the time.
Right, leaving storage open or something.
Exactly. Or weak wireless encryption. And IoT devices.
Mm.
Well, they often have very basic security, if any. So yeah, V13 dives deep into the specific risks and defenses for all of these.
Okay, this is great context. So for someone listening thinking, okay, I want to do this, what are your top study tips for a beginner tackling CEH v13?
First thing, I'd say start with the official EC Council training. It's designed to match the exam so you know you're covering the right stuff.
Makes sense.
But theory isn't enough. Hands-on practice is absolutely vital. You need to use lab environments.
Like the iLabs you mentioned, or things like TryHackMe.
Yes, exactly. iLabs, TryHackMe, Hack the Box, platforms like that, they give you a safe, legal space to actually use the tools and practice the techniques.
You really have to get your hands dirty.
Ugh.
What about specific tools? Which ones should a beginner focus on initially?
Good question. I'd say get familiar with the basics of a few key ones. Burp Suite for web stuff, intercepting traffic, finding web vulns.
Yeah.
Nmap definitely for scanning. Metasploit, that's a big framework for exploitation. And Wireshark for analyzing network packets.
Just get comfortable with them, not necessarily master them right away.
Exactly. Understand what they do, how to run basic commands, what the output means, and don't forget community.
Online forums and stuff.
Yeah, like Reddit's ethical hacking, Discord servers, LinkedIn groups. Ask questions, see what others are doing, get support. It really helps stay motivated.
That's solid advice. Now, putting CEH in context, how does it compare to other certs people hear about, like Security Plus or maybe OSCP?
Okay, so Security Plus, that's generally seen as more foundational, broader cybersecurity concepts, more theory, less hands-on offensive focus than CEH.
So CEH is more attacker-minded.
Yes, definitely more focused on the offensive techniques and tools. Now, OSCP, that's a different beast.
More advanced.
Much more advanced, yeah. Highly technical, very practical, lab-based exam. It's tough. CEH is often seen as a really good entry point into ethical hacking, maybe a stepping stone towards something like OSCP later on.
Gotcha. CEH is like the gateway drug to serious hacking skills.
You could put it that way, yeah. A solid foundation.
So getting the CEH, what does that actually mean for someone's career? What kind of jobs could it lead to?
It definitely adds weight to your resume, especially for certain roles. You might be looking at things like junior penetration tester, security analyst, maybe in a SOC, a security operations center.
Monitoring for threats.
Exactly. Monitoring, responding to incidents. Or a vulnerability assessor, specifically looking for weaknesses.
And certain sectors value it more.
Yeah, places like government, military, consulting firms often look for certifications like CEH. It can really help get your foot in the door for those entry-level or maybe intermediate security roles.
It really paints a picture of ethical hacking as, well, pretty vital work. It's not just technical tinkering.
Not at all. It's dynamic. It's constantly changing because the threats change. You have to keep learning. But yeah, it's fundamental to protecting everything we do online now.
So for anyone listening who feels maybe a bit overwhelmed but also kind of excited, CEH v13 sounds like a structured way to start.
It absolutely is. If you're wondering if you can do it, the key is just start small. Start with the basics. Stay curious. Be consistent with your learning. Getting that CEH can be the first big step.
And it opens doors to potentially explore other things later, right? Like the Security Plus OSCP we mentioned, maybe even CISSP for management down the line.
For sure. The learning never really stops in cybersecurity. There are always new paths, new specializations.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful. It really demystifies CEH and ethical hacking for beginners. Any final thought for our listeners?
Just embrace the learning process. It's challenging but rewarding. And always, always remember to use these skills ethically and responsibly. That's paramount.
Excellent point. Thanks so much for taking this deep dive with us today.
My pleasure.